Well, would you look at that? What a beautiful day here on the wild side. Good morning, everybody. How we doing? It's just fantastic around here. And I'm going to assume y'all can hear me. But as always, if somebody could verify, that would be great. Now let's see. There's the fire. And let's get this bad boy situated. Let's see. It's a wide angle lens, so it's hard to. There we go. I guess that's probably exactly where it started. Hey, good morning, Stanley. And thank you, Royce or Jennifer, whoever that is. I think I've got the audio figured out. Let's see. I've got a filter on my camera. How about that? That's very cinematic. Get that out of the way. But let's see how it looks without the filter. That's for bright light. So this is going to get brighter here in a second. There we go. That's probably just fine. All right. Well, life's good. Today's the last cold day, though, it seems. Hey, Royce. Yeah, today's the last day in the 30s, and it's supposed to be lows in the 30s, highs in the 40s and 50s. So we did get a blast of winter, though. Had about 4 days of snow, even though it was just like half an inch at a time. But hey, at least I had a blanket of white, and it was cold enough that it was snowing. So that was nice. But I don't think the creek is quite flowing the way it should be. And, but hey, that's all right. Life's good out here. It's going to warm up. So, but that'll also mean I got more sunshine. And that's really important. That sun makes all the difference. When it's sunny out, it just really affects my attitude. Sounds like down in Oklahoma, it's still cold. And let's see. Better than Michigan weather. I don't doubt that one bit. Nothing against Michigan. It's just we have pretty mild winters here. That's why it's just really hard to beat this area. I mean, I think the worst part about it is the short days in the wintertime. But now that I'm using lights, well, that wasn't such a problem this year. So, I don't know. It's hard to beat this area. We don't have mosquitoes. The winters are mild. The summers, they get hot. But it's pretty common where 90s are the highest that it gets. So, Stanley York says it was 19 this morning. Yeah, it was probably, here it's probably just in the 20s, if even that, high 20s. So, it's always funny what's going to happen in February. And then by mid-March, we should know for sure that winter's over. But can't say that too quick because of those 2 years. They were such fluke years, I'm wondering. But they've got me wondering all the time if it's going to happen again where we get a huge blast of winter in March. But we'll see. And I ain't worried about it. If anything, I kind of welcome it because never did get snowed in this year. If anything, I got mudded in. It's the mud that makes it tough to get in and out, not the snow. So that's no fun. But anyway, life's good. Things are going well. I went to town yesterday. I had to get more meat. I'm running a freezer out at my other property, And then I got one here that I'm able to run when it's sunny out. So I run it, and then it's cold out, and it pretty much stays frozen. But a lot of the meat has been thawing and freezing. But out at my other property, I got a bunch of this. That's what I'm feeding the dogs. So, boy, I'm blessed. I am blessed, folks. I tell you what, life, the more simple you get, the better the blessings are, because there's so much more meaningful. It's just amazing in town, in modern society, how much is there, and yet there's never enough. Hey, good morning, Craig. Down in Texas, it's going to be 30 tomorrow. Dang, that's crazy for Texas. That's pretty crazy. I got to make my trip down to Mexico soon. I don't want to be there in summer. I got a friend in Phoenix, and he showed me the forecast, so I checked it on my phone, and he's already got highs in the, 80s or 90s already in the 10-day forecast. So as far as I'm concerned, that means summer has started. So I got to get down to Mexico and get that trip over with. Of course, now that I think about it, I've got my minivan in the shop to get it repaired. And even though it'll cost almost twice as much in gas, it's worth it to take that darn minivan, because my whole home is in it and it's comfortable. And then I can spend a week in Nevada. I'm going to go to Reno this time. This is what I'd like to do, is hit Reno and spend a little more time exploring some desert roads, and actually spend a few days in Nevada. There's something about that wide open and being away that's just really de-stressing, really relaxing. And that's why I'm trying to get my life that way. You know, I live a pretty simple life, but the more simple I can make it, the better I feel. Like, that's what I kind of prioritized that lately. Been going through all my junk in storage and trying to narrow it down to the absolute essentials. And things like tools, I got to keep the tools so I can do a little bit of work on my truck and construction on my own. So I just got to keep that stuff. And then there's a few boxes of keepsakes that I just don't want to get rid of. But I got a ton of wool saved up. I want to use a lot of that for insulation and building projects. And then stuff like fishing stuff and, just that kind of stuff that don't use very often, but got to hang on to it. But anyway, that whole piling up of stuff is what kind of wears on me. And then I get away, like in my minivan, and all that stuff just goes away. And I think to myself, my goodness, this is all I need. I don't need all that crap that I got at home. Then, you get home and feel like you need it again. I don't know. Anyway, de-stressing, decluttering, that's kind of the theme right now. Let's see. Got you a sombrero. Yes, I got myself. This is actually from Sweden. Crumble Hats provided me this hat. Not that I didn't pay for it a pretty penny, but a brand new hat made specially for me. And the goal with this hat, the whole priority was to get at least a 5-inch brim, and it just barely cleared 5 inches. And I did that because in the 60s and 70s, they said that the cowboys were known for wide brim hats, Mexican style hats. And so I went with as wide as I could get without being, outlandish. And then for the 80s, I want to get just a normal 4-inch, 4 1/4 inch Boss of the Plains white hat. And but for my 70s cowboy impression, this is what I went with, and I'm quite happy with it. I'm really looking forward to getting on my horse and getting some good video. My darn horse, she ain't used to riding. I had almost a year off. Hi from the Baltics. Wow, how about that? Huh. Very, welcome. Glad to hear from you. The Baltics are a place I'd really love to visit, but I don't know if I will. Do I have a window there, south facing for winter direct sun and an awning to block summer sun? Steve Whitman. No, I don't. So the only window I've got is my door, which, believe it or not, I keep it open more than you might expect for winter time. And that's how I regulate heat. I didn't do any windows on purpose because I didn't want any draftiness. I wanted to make this like the ultimate in insulation. However, for wintertime or for summertime, I am thinking. Last summer, I experimented a little bit with all the boards that were the floor, the oak boards that I used from a pallet, and I leaned them up against the house to keep the sun off. But I want to experiment with that kind of thing. The problem is the sun gets so high overhead really fast. So awning out front and then some kind of shade over the top. However, I think instead I'm just going to go with a foot of insulation. I don't have all the insulation in yet, but it's going to be about a foot. And then I'm going to have good airflow. So we'll see how that works this summer. And because I'm going to use an air conditioner in here. Otherwise, it would be really interesting to see just how much. What I want to build is a gypsy wagon where the sides open up fully on each side. And so there's airflow and shade. That's one of my goals. But with this one, the goal is air conditioning. Oh, wow. Good morning from Germany. Milan. Welcome. Greetings. This is cool. People from all over the world again. Get a real sombrero. Well, you're probably thinking Mexican Revolution sombrero because these days, that's what we think of as a sombrero is the Mexican Revolution, which is a really cool style. But when going back into the 1850s, 1860s, the age of the vaquero, the Spanish vaquero, it was more European style than that Mexican style that developed. And so that's what was the majority that influenced the Texas Cowboys and the California Cowboys was that Spanish Mexico style. And there's a ton of images from like the 1850s with hats like this in Mexico. Sometimes they had the higher crown, sometimes a lower crown. And so this is like an American rendition of it. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what hats they got when I'm in Mexico, if I make it. It's the dental capital, or one of them. There's a few places that are really big for dentistry, but from what I read, there's like dentist offices on every corner and people outside trying to get all the white people to come inside, spend their money there. So it'll be interesting to see how much authentic Mexican stuff they got there. Hopefully I've got time to walk around town, and yeah, it'd be really cool to see what they got. Hopefully they got real stuff. I'd like to get some Mexican huaraches. I thought I could get them when I was down in Arizona, down near the border, but they didn't have any of them leather Mexican sandals, with the made out of tire tread on the bottom. So we'll see. Mexico's getting more and more Americanized, unfortunately. I'm I'm a culture guy. I love diversity of culture. But these days, that's considered anything that's not American standard is considered poverty, and we've got to go and save everybody that doesn't live like Americans. Without getting into all that, I'll just leave it there, and it annoys me. But anyway, de-stressing and living simplicity. Still kind of going that direction. Ironically, this the reenacting stuff ironically makes things a little more complicated, because I've got to have like 3 barrels of storage of stuff just for reenacting, when I'd like to get really would like to get down to just owning stuff that fits in my minivan. Speaking of reenacting, I ran across this knife recently. I really love this one. It's a different blade style than my main knife. Hopefully this doesn't screw up. So this is a butcher style. I forgot what style this one is, but these, the grommets on it, I don't know if they're visible. This is a later style. So this style of a knife works for the fur trade era. And this one, I just ran across it and realized I need to have a sheath made for it and use this for my 70s era. And then, so see there, I only need 1 knife. But then for reenacting, end up with 2 different knives. That's all right. Reliving the old ways. This hat's looking pretty good. I wouldn't mind if this brim was a little bit straighter, but not up like the Buckaroos. It's not a Buckaroo hat, but flat brim. It's flat enough for the era. Problem is, we just don't have a lot of pictures of cowboys in the 70s. Kind of frustrating. Let's get some coffee going. That's how I got to cook everything, is right on the fire. All right. Been to Mexico several times. Which part of Mexico there, Stanley? We get a lot of Mexicans here in Yakima. Like, our population in the county is about half. And when I was a realtor, I talked to quite a few, of course, and then I talked to quite a few whenever I get the chance. And a lot of the old timers that come up here, they've told me about how they had ranches down there, and so I've talked to some. We get a lot of them here from Michoacan, which is pretty far south and more like jungle, because it's close to the equator. But we get some from the areas that I would like to go, out in the desert. Wish I would have done it when I was younger. And the guy described to me what it was like there, that they had, I don't know, like 40-acre parcels, stuff like that. And they'd call it ranches. And you get a lot of the old timers here that really long for it. They miss it. But just like the development of civilization all over the place, I'm going to piss some people off here, but this is just history. It's the women that want the latest developments, while the men all the men want to live out in simplicity on a farm or on a ranch and working hard. But the women want the fineries that civilization offers. And it's interesting to see that same thing happening now. I mean, that's what happened in the West. Men came out first and enjoyed the ruggedness, and then you had the farmers come out with their families, and they had to have schools and towns and churches and all that stuff that brought civilization. And then they had to have the latest fashions brought out. And they had to be in towns where there were trains so that they could get the latest fashions in time. I haven't even looked at the view count. This is the kind of stuff that's going to piss people off, but it's just the reality of the development of the West. They say the Winchester rifle is the gun that won the West. I say it was men keeping their women happy is what settled the West. Am I pissing anybody off? And we see it today. A lot of men would be content to be in Mexico. Not all of them. I'm just talking about the ones that came from the ranches. So obviously that's not going to be a huge percentage because it's scattered out. Coming up, working on farms. So anyway, I like that. I think there's a lot that us country folk can relate to with the country folk coming up from Mexico. Some of them. Yep. The West was settled by women wanting schools. The first settlers here, we had like 3 families here in town. Only 3 families. And the wives insisted on having a school. So they put a school in the upstairs of the I'll call him the patriarch. The patriarch was daggone it, what was his first name? Jim Thorpe, I think it was, if I remember right. And he had the main cabin because he owned the ranch that the other families worked for him. And upstairs of his cabin, they put the first school. So they had like 10 kids. They had to put them into school. What the heck was that going to do them any good? People were making thousands of dollars. They were getting rich off of the cattle industry. You could be set for life if you're smart with your money, but I don't know that most of them were. And they had to go spend time in school so that they could work cows all their life. Anyway, if you can't tell, I think it's silly. People get mad if you use the term civilization because it's always been used to look down on other people. I'm talking for thousands of years. There's actually inscriptions in concrete about how the civilized viewed themselves over the non-civilized We're talking 3000 BC. So it's not a modern thing. The whole civilization concept and superiority has been going on for 5,000 years at least, if I remember right. I don't know. I got to look at the history again of when those inscriptions were. But the appealing thing about civilizations was that they had law and order. So women and kids felt safer. And the kings who wanted to run these civilizations, they just needed people. They needed people to come in and live in their kingdoms so that they were more powerful. And so they appealed to women, and they'd get their men to move into the towns. And anyway, it's been going on for thousands of years. It's just kind of funny to see these consistencies over the earliest civilization and into the same civilization building that we had in the 1800s. Cheers, folks. And then you had guys like Wyatt Earp, Bat Masterson, Wild Bill, these guys who loved the wilderness, but actually helped to tame it and ruin it. So that's kind of the irony there. All right. Oh, Stanley, you're in Ensenada. My dad spent time in Ensenada. And somebody brought up Robert Duvall. Yep, Gus McCrae. Good old Gus McCrae. He was awesome. So real. Living on a ranch is such a big dream of mine. Yeah, it was of mine too. But now that I got one, I don't want to own cattle or anything. I just want to go on horse trips off the property. But if I was younger and had the property that I have now, I'd probably try to develop a cattle herd. But since I'm older, I just want to get out on my horse trips. Hopefully I can get my other property sold. That's what's on the table now. Downsizing, simplifying, less stress. So anyway, that's my history lesson. Civilization. It's funny how people get mad about that term. Let's see. Yep, so that's all I wrote down to talk about, so I'd remember what to talk about. Speaking of teeth repair, I bought a bunch of crap to use for my teeth. Anybody hear of Dr. Ellie Phillips? Well, I ran across her, and she says that our teeth can actually repair themselves a lot. So I bought the products that she recommends, and she doesn't push them to sell them herself. I just went on Amazon and bought them. I didn't buy them off of her website or anything. So I feel like she's legit. It's hard to know these days because you can't compete with the main industry's marketing, paying researchers to verify what they say. And then they talk bad about somebody who does independent research. But then you don't know if they're right or not. What a world we live in. Yeah, it's funny. It's really gratifying there. Milan says his dad is just like me, simpler the better. It just feels so good. Let's see. I cleaned off my tea shelf because I'm just not drinking tea. I left this, which is actually tea bags. I normally use loose leaf tea. So I got some black tea if I want it. But I just cleaned off everything that was extra. I had some old keepsakes sitting on my desk, but I cleared those out, and it feels so much better. Just having things cleared out. I don't know. It might be partly personality, but I think in general, it's just better for humans. Well, heck, you can tell because the way our society is pushing things on us. They batter us with information and with concerns and with needs. They just barrage us with all of that stuff. So that tells us that's not good because they're definitely not doing what's best for us. These corporations and politicians, they're pretty much rule of thumb. Whatever you see pushed on you in society is not what's healthy for you. Because they count on people being unhealthy, so they make rash decisions and make decisions based on fear and concern, not making decisions on what's best for themselves. And the more you get out in the wilderness and the less you have, the more you realize just how true that is, what I just said. It's just something you got to experience. Oh, thank you, Linus. Yeah, that's annoying when it is too good. Appreciate that feedback. Is this better? Let me know if this works. Yeah, I was struggling with the audio for so long that now that it's working, I got to readjust. So let's try that. That's fantastic. Don't have to hang on to it. That's why I got those, for crying out loud. Stanley York, prefer the simple life. Yeah, it's a shame. I wish I would have known it when I was young. But hey, at least I learned it when I did. Let's see how far my cable will go. Whoops. I used to hoard anything survival related, and one day it hit me. I couldn't take it all with me. Yeah, that's how I used to be. Man, I have some. I've talked about this before, but some embarrassing attempts at camping and hunting. Like when I was 16, I tried to go rabbit hunting. I really wanted to go rabbit hunting, and let's see. Doggone it. I knew nothing about it. Let's see. How's that working? There we go. It's too bright. I need that filter back on. Oops. Well, unfortunately, I can't reach it out the door anyway. There, that's a little better. Now we'll darken this bad boy up one way or another. There we go. Too dark. There we go. How about that? Anyway, it's a beautiful day. It's pretty cloudy. There's a little bit of sunshine. And the weather doesn't last around here, so it could look like it's going to be cloudy all day long, and then it can turn to broken skies. So we'll see. It's too soon to say. I got my solar panels out anyway, but not really bothering aiming them when it's this cloudy. But anyway, sure makes a big difference when it's sunny every few days. Then I can keep my batteries charged and use everything without worrying about losing it. It's sure peaceful out here, folks. I tell you what, I have no regrets about living this way. Like I always say, my only regret is that I didn't do it sooner. Can you hear how peaceful it is? The only sounds I hear is a jet off in that direction. That's like the most noise that I hear around here. And then sometimes I'll hear a dog barking. I don't know if he's running loose or if he's like way off at the houses. And then, let's see. Sometimes I'll hear a vehicle because there's roads, dirt roads that people take their side-by-sides, and I can hear those occasionally. Otherwise, it's just so peaceful. Oh, and the other night, for those of you who don't follow me on Facebook, so it was real dark out. It was cloudy and no moon. And I went out here to use a tree, and I got out here realizing, man, I should have brought along my headlamp, and I should have brought a gun. So anyway, I got out to my spot, and suddenly I heard some rustling in the brush. And it was enough rustling that I knew it was no small animal. But then suddenly I heard rustling all over, and I realized, oh, there's a herd of elk out here. Let's see. You can't see it. Just like right down there. I don't know how close they were because it was too dark and I never saw them. But I heard them. That whole herd must have been just right in here, probably 20, 30 yards from me. Fortunately, they didn't spook and run at me. They all ran off. And then I started hearing them mewing to each other. They're making, it kind of sounded like bugling as they all ran up the hill. And I didn't get my spotlight because I didn't want to scare them. I wanted them to feel comfortable. And but anyway, that was neat. Those neat live wildlife interactions. Absolutely love it. And like I said, it was too dark. I never did see them. But that was cool. And then just this morning, somebody commented on one of my videos. It was a live video where I was sitting out here and I had the camera aimed up that way. And somebody noticed up in the side of my head a coyote ran by during the live stream. I could barely see it even on the video, but then I was watching on my phone. But it was just a little gray flash. So that was pretty wild. I don't know exactly how far up it was. It was hard to tell which hill, but I think it was up that way, about 100 yards away. And other than that, that's about all the wildlife. I'm always watching for cat tracks, and I never see them. And I barely see rabbits, and I see mice. So I've been having a mouse coming inside. But he ran out. He ran out the door and ran out because I was in town yesterday and I can't close this door fully. And so he ran out here and under the trailer. As long as he's staying out, Eventually, I got to make a door that fits in here and closes up. But I barely ever have it closed anyway, so it's not really urgent. But anyway, that's about all the wildlife interactions I have out here is the elk when they come around, and then the coyotes. Speaking of coyotes, the other day I was up with my horses. They're always watching for coyotes. And they noticed one, and so I watched for a while, and sure enough, way up on the hillside, there was 3 coyotes, 3 or 4, but I'm pretty sure it was 3. And they were all walking. It was in the morning around 10 o'clock. You know, because we had been talking about coyotes here on the live stream. And I had said that usually in the daytime, they part ways and they just hang out one at a time by themselves. But here there was 3 of them, and I watched. I grabbed my scope to watch them, but then they stopped in some brush up there and they bedded down. So they bedded down for the day. So I was trying to think of who I might call. I wanted to come out and ambush them with me, but it was a weekday, you know, nobody's really available on those days. And I didn't want to go up there by myself because I would maybe get one, but I don't think I could have even gotten range. I was wanting somebody that's got a long range rifle. And because it was too bare, there's too much openness around them. I think the closest that a guy could get would have been like 200 yards. And right now that just wasn't, that was out of range for me. But anyway, 3 of them bedded down together. So that's why I think populations are a little too high around here. We might lose some baby deer if we don't thin them out. Looks like me crossing over. What's that? Do I farm the land I own? No, I don't. So I bought that irrigated land. I bought the land with irrigation thinking that I would want to grow hay on it for my horses. But I realized I can graze my horses 10 months out of the year here. Like, it's rare that 10 months isn't a possibility. And so I started to realize doing all that work to grow hay when I could just buy hay for 2 months worth, it was a whole lot easier and almost cheaper to just buy hay for 2 months and use my land as pasture. Like most people around here, they'll put their horses on dry ground and then hay all their property. And I get it. You make more money off of hay, and horses eat a lot when they pasture. But I don't know. It made more sense to me to let my horses run loose. It's better for their brain, and just graze, and then I wouldn't have to raise horses, or raise hay. But anyway, I'm now down to 2 horses, and that's way easier to keep, and that's why I'm selling that other land. And so kind of the same thing with growing things. I was thinking about gardening and growing some of my own food, but I've said this a lot of times. There's like 6 or 7 different greens that were growing just wild. So if I wanted greens, all I had to do was go out and pick them. And so there was no reason to till up the ground and plant them just to grow greens. I mean, what would I grow? Squash is the one thing that I would like to grow because it's a good winter food. Broccoli, I mean, when I think about growing, I think about green things. So that's where my mind went for gardening. That I realized I didn't need to do that either. So, but I don't know. I'm kind of, it would be fun to grow some stuff here. I'd like to grow some trees, and I'd like to grow trees that produce something like apricots. I'd like to grow because I love apricot jam. And one tree, if you can do one tree. I know with cherries, you got to have like a male, female, but one or two apricot trees, and that would provide tons of apricots. And then I could also make vinegar and wine out of it. And then my mulberry tree, I'm hoping that's not dead and it takes off well here, and then I'll have a bunch of mulberries. And then I got an elderberry tree here. So stuff like that is what I want to grow. Trees where I can just put a drip line and be done with it. And so anyway, that's my thoughts there on that kind of thing. If I had more lives to live, I'd be doing things different. But also we got deer and elk and then cattle around here in the summertime. So, and then rabbits too. So gardening is really challenging out here. A lot of people that try to grow things, they get so mad at the elk because the elk find it and come after it. So anyway, Mon says, back when I was a child, I lived in a village. I used to think living in a city must be cool, but now that I've had to move to the city for education, I think, oh man, the village is so much better. Yeah, no joke. I was so torn when I was a kid. I wanted to live the old ways, but I also wanted to be around people because I really do enjoy being around people. I'm that kind of person who gets energized by being around people. So yeah, I was the same thing. I moved to Seattle. And I don't regret moving to Seattle, but I regret staying there as long as I did. I was there way too long. And then I went to South Africa, where it was really open and empty. And I realized, yeah, this is way better. And I decided when I was sitting in Africa, looking over this beautiful scene, and I told myself right then, if I don't stay in South Africa, I'm not going back to Seattle. And sure enough, when I got back to America, I came home. Oh, Royce said it looked like I was dying. Yeah, walk out the door, look like I'm going into heaven. Take me, Lord. I'm ready. There, did I disappear? Yeah. Now I look like Michael Landon as an angel. I don't know if anybody's old enough for the Michael Landon reference. I don't mean, and I don't mean Laura Ingalls. I've kind of put off stuff with my horse too because it's been so dang cold. And as I always say, it's not because it's cold temperatures, it's because it's so miserably humid that I kind of put off riding my horse. I went out and rode her once. I've only ridden her once, and she wasn't too happy. She started to buck. That's the first time she's ever done that with me, but not with the guy that trained her. And so I pulled her head around into my knee and made her run in circles, which is a fantastic trick that I was taught years ago. And I always wondered why everybody doesn't do that. But then I started to figure out that some people know how to ride out a buck. And so then that's the other theory, as I can tell, is one way is you let the horse buck and it learns, oh, that didn't do me any good. It seems to be what a lot of people do. I talked to one guy one time and I asked him, why didn't you grab the rein and pull it in? He said, oh, that was nothing. I can ride that out easy. And that way the horse figures it out that it's pointless to try. But since I never learned how to ride out a buck, I try to stop it as soon as possible. So fortunately, she didn't get mad again. she was getting frustrated. But since it's been so long since I've ridden her, I mostly just let her walk around and graze, letting her get used to me being on her back. And that worked. So little by little now, I got to get her back into understanding that she's going to be a riding horse. And I tell you what, it's tempting to get rid of them. If I had a side-by-side, I wouldn't have to deal with that. I'd just be out exploring. Instead, now I got to spend months getting my horse back into shape of riding. And oh well, it'll look a whole lot better on videos once we do. It shouldn't take very long either. She's actually a really good horse. So if I just do it consistently for a couple weeks, it'll probably make a big difference. And when I was doing some videos out at the other property last summer, she did a really good job. It almost seemed like she started to figure out that when I set up the camera, she could tell. It was like she knew, okay, he sets up the camera and then we go do the thing. And then I get off, look at the video, set it up somewhere else, and then ride her. So that's a really good way to train her also. So, yeah, see, there we go. Stanley, he's a cowboy. He used to do that. So Stanley, yeah, you'd let him buck out intentionally, wouldn't you? And was it kind of like I said, so that the horse would get it out of their system and figure out that that's pointless, which seems like a good method to me, rather than jerking its head around and it feeling like, if I could get away with it, then I'll win. I don't know. It seems like both methods work, but riding it out is a lot more cowboy than mine. So I suppose that probably has a lot to do with it too. Oh well. Oh well. One thing about living small like this is you got to keep everything organized. Because I was talking about clutter, man, it don't take much for things to be cluttered up and suddenly the place is crowded. So like that movie said, wasn't that Alice in Wonderland or something? Everything in its place and a place for everything. That's just absolutely important here. But it's also gratifying, as in 2 minutes you got the place all cleaned out too. So yeah, there's that little bit of a win. But I just got these dental products, and now I got to figure out where I'm going to keep those. And yesterday or the day before, I always do a sweep, and I take out everything that's not essential, because it's easy how I bring in things and think, oh, I need this in here, and then after a week I realize, no, I don't need that. I need to get everything out that I can get out. What I did not account for is when building this, I've said before, the dogs. So the dogs take up the storage space under the bed. So all that space is pretty much taken up by the dogs. And then I didn't account for the dogs sitting right in the pathway. And I want her to be able to, because she likes it there. And but it'd be nice if the place was 2 feet wider. Even a foot wider would be nice because of the dog. If it weren't for the dog, it'd be fine. But then the other thing I didn't account for is things that take batteries. It's best to keep batteries inside where the heat and temperature is a little better regulated. And then I finally brought my guitar inside because it was outside, and that's not good for a guitar. going down to 15 degrees. So anyway, as far as living in a place that's 7 foot wide by 14, if you didn't have dogs, there'd be plenty of storage because I'd just store everything under the bed. But with the dogs, it's a little tight on storage. So anyway, for whatever that's worth to anybody. Thanks, Stanley. Thanks for the feedback there. So yeah, but I may end up moving into the other cabin. That's kind of the plan now, but I go over plans in my mind all the time, thinking about the best way to do things. But I really want to do an Airbnb, and I figured out the best way to do it is to just turn this one into an Airbnb money-wise. If I had more money, then I could build my gypsy wagon, and a gypsy wagon would be a really cool Airbnb. That's why I wanted to do that. But I've already got this one, and I can just move into my cabin, or vice versa. Now that I think about that, I could actually set it up where if somebody wanted to rent the big cabin, then I take this one off the market and stay in it while I rent out the big cabin because I could make more money on that one. So anyway, that's the kind of stuff I'm juggling around. We'll see if I do any of it. Yeah, I agree. An Airbnb would be a lot of fun, and I like hospitality. I always say that. Like I enjoy. That's why I hate this whole customer service thing in society that we've got, where you got to suck up to anybody who works customer service because their life is so miserably hard. It's like, hey, if you don't like it, don't do it. I used to work in a restaurant. Any customer service I did, I loved it. I didn't feel myself degraded because I had to help people. And so anyway, that's why I like it. I would enjoy doing Airbnb. Make people coffee and bring it to them. They'd probably just make their own coffee, but I mean, that kind of stuff I would really enjoy. Even making breakfast. We'll see. We'll see how it is, because most people who use Airbnbs, they just want to be left alone. And so you want to respect whatever people want, but it would also be fun to do a more service-oriented Airbnb. So I got a great spot for it here. So we'll see. That's what's on my mind lately. So I got to figure out a way to make some money. Just a little bit. Just a little bit of money. Well, folks, any questions or comments? Throw them at me. Because I think I have run out of things to talk about. Talking about movies, though. My brother and I were talking about Westerns. He made an edit. I don't think you'll mind me talking about this. My brother likes editing. And so I wanted to rewatch the Wyatt Earp movie with Kevin Costner. But it's so dorky, I turned it off after about 15 minutes. And the problem with that movie is it's got some really good aspects to it. But poor Kevin Costner, I mean, I like him overall. And when he made Dances with Wolves, I thought he was the greatest thing ever. But then he made his Robin Hood movie, which bittersweet. Costner's just kind of hit or miss with movies. And Wyatt Earp, like I say, it has so many cool aspects, but there's so much of it that's just so bad. Well, my brother went and he went and made his own edit of it. And if you guys have seen, my brother's very into Wyatt Earp. I did a video with him where we discussed Wyatt Earp, and that was just a fraction of what my brother knows on the subject. So he went through and edited out the good stuff and made a new edit, and we're going to watch that pretty soon. And so I'm looking forward to that. Because dang Hollywood, dang Hollywood just refuses of making a good Western. And we've got a lot of good Westerns, but it's in spite of Hollywood. It's not really because of Hollywood when you look at the mass numbers of Westerns. But anyway, hopefully that'll continue to improve. I mean, we always got Lonesome Dove, and there's a lot of good ones. The spaghetti Westerns are fantastic, but not necessarily accurate, of course. But anyway, I guess I'm running out of things to talk about. How long's it been here? Just an hour. I'm going to keep trying the live video on the creek side, but that's where I will push more into hot topics that make a lot of people angry. But I just think they need to be discussed. So I'll keep trying that live stream on Sunday morning. So in case anybody wants to join me there, but this one's about history and how I live, and doesn't get too much into the hot topics. So other than that, today is humid and miserable, so I might just stay inside most of the day and I don't know, study some Old West history and sit by the fire. I gotta go get more firewood. That's all that we do here around here in wintertime is cook food and cut firewood and feed the horses. That's the only thing that's demanding of my time. Who knew winter would be the best time of year? Oh, yeah, you're welcome to come visit here. I'll be set up if you want to visit Washington State. A lot of people that want to come over for Old West stuff, though, Arizona really is a good place to go. And you can head over to Utah as well. But it's hard to come up and visit Washington and Arizona. It's a good 2-day drive in between. 2 long days of driving. I've often heard about how Europeans are often shocked by that when they come over. But you probably know that. Anyway, hopefully I get that set up in the next couple months. We'll see. And there goes a crow overhead. That's the other wildlife. I need to set up some flashy things up on my container. I got to get around to that. Set up some flashy stuff for the crows and make friends with them. That's how I've heard. I've heard you can do that. All right, folks. Well, I'm going to call it quits. Appreciate everybody that's been here. And like I say, if you want to join me tomorrow, but it's a lot different. That's why I'm doing it on a separate channel. So just want to be clear about that. And otherwise, I hope you guys all get out in nature and just drive out to nature and take some deep breaths if you need to. De-stress. Don't get too stressed out. Hopefully this is a little bit of a fresh air for you and perspective orienter. You'll be there tomorrow. All right. I'll be watching for you. Oh, on that, I thought you were joking about coming to America. Yeah, both ways. Oh, yeah, Craig brought up my rooster. Yeah, I miss my dang rooster, too. That's one reason I want to sell my old property, because I went over there yesterday and just get really sad thinking about the animals that are gone. My rooster. And, yeah, so anyway, I miss that rooster. He was so cool. He was my pal. Anyway, yep. All right, folks. Well, enjoy your day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Those of you who want to join me there, same time, same channel. Well, different channel. Yeah. All right. Well, remember, let's see. How do we end things here? Oh, there it is. All right, folks. Remember, life's a lot more fun over on the wild side.